Hello everyone, welcome back to Yume Nikki. Let's re-enter the beautiful dream world on our little adventure. So today we're going to go to the block world. This is quite an interesting area. I like the theme of this area. It's quite I don't know how you would describe it. Blocky? It's kind of like lots of Tetris bars, particularly around here. It'd be difficult to say exactly what the inspiration for some of the things you see is, but there's an interesting image, I might show it later on in the video, where viewed from top down this looks kind of like a big circuit board, or a motherboard. So, hat and scarf, useful effects. If you're out in the snow, we're not going to be out in the snow immediately, but what we're going to do, our MO for the moment, is to touch that spooky looking monolith thing up on top of that big arch. And how would you do that? Well, we're going to find out. But first, time for a bathroom break. But you can't go to the bathroom on your bicycle, because that's silly and unhygienic. You might notice that we went into the men's bathroom. This has been something that's led to a lot of theories that madotsuki is possibly gender confused, or possibly even a transsexual. So that, or she just really needed to go to the bathroom. You know, there's a female bathroom elsewhere in the game that she'll use just fine, so it could just be that she just doesn't give a shit. I mean, I probably wouldn't if I was really desperate. I don't know if the girls would appreciate that. Of course, there's all these little alcoves in the block world, why not just go in there? So this thing here, this hat creature that we are seeing move around, let's talk to that. Ah, perfect. Exactly what I wanted to see. Straight into where we want to go. In fact, is it worth doing that? Yeah, probably. Just so that we can be complete. I'm forgetting to do silly little things. So this character you can actually see if you use the stoplight, which you probably wouldn't know to do. The character is called Mafarako. That sounds plausible. They're nice enough, but we're not interested in that. We got bigger fish to fry. Always do that. So this is the area we kind of skirted around last time, the monochrome world. And just before we go too deep in, I always think this mouth, well, I'll be damned. We are getting all the lucky rolls today, folks. That was the Takufusun thing. I was going to talk about that later. What we're going to talk about first is this little head thing while it's fresh in my mind, because I always think this looks quite similar to the creature that takes you to that little path with all the weird stomach things with the blood and stuff. Just, it's a lot happier. That thing that crossed paths is apparently called the octopus balloon in the game, or something like that. And yeah, they look like an octopus balloon. The more interesting, well, the theory that's postulated by some fans is that it looks like a rare condition called a trap syndrome, where in cases where there are twins, you know, in a pregnancy, sometimes one of the twins will become quite deformed, and the other twin will become kind of like a pump, and the twin that becomes deformed can emerge without a head or without internal organs. That's apparently what that kind of looks like. It's not what these guys look like. These eye men are strangely drawn to walking to the left. They do walk to the left a lot. They do occasionally walk in other directions, but I think that's only if they I'm going to break the mold. We can't stop them in their tracks. And if they're all standing still, they will stare at you rather creepily. Other than that, they don't really do a lot. We can kind of harass them a bit. And they will come in the droves. But we're not going to do that. Where's my knife? There we go. Get me back out of here. So, the monochrome world. It's suggested that the monochrome world is the way it is, kind of poorly drawn in black and white, as a means of showing that it's something from the past that Madotsuki is remembering. Which is an interesting idea. Almost as interesting as hitting this thing repetitively with a knife. And it is quite a common theme in the game. There's lots of areas that we've already seen that are monochromatic. The spaceship, for example, is all kind of in one colour. Okay, now this area isn't too big, and depending on what we come across first will play a part in how we do things. So we're on the road, and here we have an interesting little character. This is Monoko. Something like that. I don't know. Pronunciation has never been my strong point at these things. Reasonably unassuming, just kind of staggering around there. Yeah, don't walk away from me. You walk backwards. But then, oh dear, what is that twitching at the top of your head? Where is that? What is that music? So what really to make of that? Seems like someone who's got a little bit of a deformity, you could say. It's proposed by some fans that she is Madotsuki's sister, and for some reason she happens to have some very strange ailments. And a more interesting theory that I came across recently was that, I don't know if you notice, when you see her bouncing around, she doesn't have any shoes on. Now, it seems like a really obscure thing to notice, and it could just be an artistic license, but a fan suggested that in Japanese culture, people who want to take their own life customarily take their shoes off. And well, there's not really much else to point to that. It's interesting that that particular detail has been taken off. The shoes. It's always the shoes, isn't it? Just when you think you got your foot in the door. Cool. So we've seen that. She does make an appearance in the manga as well, named as the girl who lost her identity, to whatever that cryptic statement means. Right, so we're on the road again. Fine. So this would in turn lead back to the area we were in before. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. It's a one-way entrance, but that's where that would take you out. I believe if we just trying to readjust myself a little bit. Good. So this character here, dubbed by fans to be called Dave Spector. I don't really know why. It's apparently some likeness to something from a TV show. I always think he kind of looks like he's wearing a really oversized mask. Like there's a normal sized person wearing a really big mask over the top of his body. And for some reason he walks around backwards. I mean, what the fuck's up with that? This little doorway doesn't really do much though. However, as Yume Nikki has shown us many times, violence is always the answer. Kill it and reap the rewards. There's some fires in the distance. Now that I look at it, that thing kind of reminds me of the creature that tips over and spills out that fluid all over the place. Just obviously a little more spaghetti-ish. Kind of looks like that thing with the quivering jaw. That style. So this takes us here. So what happens here? What happens here is we can see some heads flying around. Of course, we can't really go and play with them because they will vanish as soon as we come out. Come on, give us a different one. Give us a different one. There we go. Don't really know what to make of that. It's there's some things flying around. There's not really a lot to add. Anyway, let's continue. I do find the music in this area kind of... it's not disturbing, but it is unsettling. Just the offbeat, how it changes. Yeah, I'm sorry, he had to die again. It is not his day, you see. So out into the wilderness we go. What are we looking for? There she is. So this character here is Mono. I don't know. As I said, do forgive me if I'm pronouncing these things and bastardizing them in some way. Called in the manga the girl who lost her thoughts. She doesn't look that unthoughtful to me, but some fans have said that she has a kind of similarity to Madotsuki herself. If we get the old long hair out, yeah, there's some element of similarity. Maybe Madotsuki when she was in school. It could just be, you know, kind of artistic license. Also suggested by some to be the sister of the other girl that we saw. Of course, you can talk to her, but all she does is show her face and then vanish to somewhere else in the area. Where's the bike? Kind of like the that Orbulon thing. What it was called? It was called Orbulon. The thing in the Sky Garden that jumped around. In fact, that's exactly what it does, and at the moment I think I just want to get out of here. So yeah, that's this section of the White Desert. As I mentioned, there is another section of the White Desert, which we will cover perhaps as a coda, because while it's cool, there's not really enough there to fill another section of video, and it just leads here anyway. So so yeah, that's the White Desert, and that's been episode 8 of Let's Play Yume Nikki. Thanks for watching.